So far, all the arguments we've looked at in this class have been in English, a natural language. But when it comes to assessing arguments, sometimes it's useful to be able to translate them into a formal symbolic language. Starting in this video, we're going to learn some of the basics of how to transform arguments given in natural languages, like English, into arguments that are given in symbols as part of formal symbolic logic. When validity is treated as a matter of logical form, symbols can be used to represent logical connectives, such as negation, disjunction, and conditionals. This simplifies writing argument forms and reminds us that the truth-functional meanings of connectives are considerably more restricted than the meanings of these terms in ordinary language. Okay, so this is our very first symbol that we're going to cover, the arrow. In some other texts, what we're using as an arrow is sometimes used as a horseshoe symbol, but we're sticking with the arrow. The connective, if-then, is represented by an arrow between two sentences. The arrow joins the antecedent and the consequent of a conditional sentence. So, for example, it is raining, arrow, you should bring an umbrella, should be read as, if it is raining, then you should bring an umbrella. So the antecedent goes before the arrow, then you get the arrow, and then you get the consequent afterwards. The tilde. The connective not is represented by a tilde, preceding the sentence that is negated. The tilde or negation sign is regarded as a connective even though it does not connect two sentences. Negation is a unary connective, while the other connectives are binary. Because every negated sentence contains another sentence, namely the sentence that is negated, a negated sentence fits the description of a compound sentence according to your textbook. So tilde, most people are left-handed, should be read as, it is not the case that most people are left-handed. The wedge. You can just use a lowercase v to get this wedge symbol. This is our third symbol, and the connective or is represented by a wedge between two sentences. The wedge joins two disjuncts in a disjunction. So, for example, you can go for a walk, or you can take a nap. You can go for a walk or take a nap. This wedge functions as the or. The ampersand. In your book, they use a dot, but it's also common to use an ampersand, and that's what we're going to use here. When doing homeworks or quizzes, you can use the dot or the ampersand. The dot or the ampersand is the connective for and. The ampersand joins two conjuncts in a conjunction. So just as we call each part of a disjunction a disjunct, we call each part of the conjunction a conjunct. Max is a dog, and Max is a pet should unsurprisingly be read as Max is a dog and Max is pet. Okay, so earlier we had this little table for the truth conditions for conditionals. We had P representing the antecedent, Q the consequent, and then this sentence, if P then Q. And we looked at each of the scenarios, looking at different combinations of the truth and falsity of P and Q for what the truth value of the whole conditional is. Using the letter T to stand for true, the letter F to stand for false, and inserting our new arrow for the if-then, we can put the table forward this way. And we can do the same thing with the other connectives. So the truth conditions for not P go as like this. If P is true, then not P is false. If not P is false, then if P is false, then not P is true. Truth conditionals for disjunctions, as long as at least one of the disjuncts is true, the disjunction as a whole is true. And the truth conditions for conjunctions. In a conjunction, both P and Q have to be true. So the only time the conjunction is true is when both P and Q are true. So before we end this video, we're going to learn about one more connective, the material biconditional. In English, the expression closest in meaning to this connective is if and only if. The sentence, "The roof leaks if and only if it is raining," means that if the roof leaks, then it is raining, and that if it is raining, then the roof leaks. That is to say, the roof leaks always and only when it's raining. Thus, the material biconditional is equivalent to the conjunction of two material conditionals in which the antecedent of the one is the consequent of the other and vice versa. Since this is so, we could use the arrow and the ampersand to express the material biconditional. If P, then Q, and if Q, then P. The left conjunct represents P if only Q, and the right conjunct represents P if Q. The material biconditional is common enough, however, that in argumentation we're going to go ahead and use a special symbol, the double arrow, to denote it. With this in mind, with our new symbol, the double arrow, for if and only if, we can look at the following table for the truth conditions of biconditionals. Notice the only two times the biconditional is true are the times when P and Q have the same truth value. The biconditional is true when both P and Q are true, and it's true when they're both false. But it's false every time the two values don't align. The reason why this is the case is because the piece of information that the biconditional gives us is that when the one thing is the case, so is the other. So it's fine when neither are the case. That's still going to be true. And when they're both the case. However, the biconditional would be telling us something false if the one condition was true and the other was false. Alright, so in the next video, we're going to continue working with symbols and start translating sentences into symbolic logic.